What's going on, guys, and welcome to my AEW Collision audio review for July 1st, 2023. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying the rest of your weekend. This is my second AEW Collision audio review. We did not do one for the first show 2 weeks ago. I did say last week I don't know if this will be a regular, consistent thing here on the channel every Sunday, but I did catch the show today. I was available to record a review, and here we are. Not the most eventful episode. I enjoy the first two editions of Collision more than this one. I still enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a good show overall. Not as eventful. They taped the show on Thursday. I did not watch this live. I didn't watch the first one. Did I watch last week live? I don't remember. I did watch last week's live. I did not watch the first one live. I didn't catch this one live. Money in the Bank was yesterday. They did not conflict with each other. There was no overlap. Collision started at 8. Money in the Bank Eastern time was done like 2 hours before the show aired. About an hour or so, actually. Money in the Bank was a long show, but still, a lot of wrestling in one day. I caught up earlier today. Even scrolling through when I could anyway, fuck Elon Musk, by the way, when I could scroll through my Twitter timeline earlier today and late last night, I saw nothing about Collision on my timeline, and the show was going on or had already aired, and we had a pretty big angle. Really, this show was without any major angles. We did have an AEW World Championship title defense and the opener, so that was newsworthy. But beyond that, we didn't really have any major angles, and even that in and of itself was not massive or significant. We had a good angle to close the show, not exactly massive, wrong word to describe that, but beyond that, wasn't really the most, again, like I said, newsworthy show. And I enjoyed the 2 hours, not the hottest 2 hours. Like I did mention, they did tape this in Canada 2 days beforehand on Thursday. I don't know if it was because of that or another reason. This crowd was not lively at all. And it's not like the show sucked. There was some solid wrestling on the show. I don't know if they taped it before or after another show. I don't think so. It's not as if they taped it after Dynamite on Wednesday. This was on Thursday. This was a Thursday show. So, again, I'm not sure of the reason. I just thought the lack of crowd, not involvement, but like their lack of energy was noticeable. Even more so than your average AEW audience. And they were in Canada, and you would think that they'd be more lively and into the stuff, and they had some big stars on the show. But apparently not. We opened up the show, the MJF making his in-ring debut on Collision. And had he just wrestled this one match against a local Canadian wrestler, Kip Morst, which is a pretty bad name, by the way. I think his name was Kip Morst anyway. That would have been very inconsequential. He was in there for less than a minute or so, beat the guy decisively, and that was it. So had they hyped up his in-ring debut on this show, and it amounted to nothing as this did, that would have been disappointing. I'm not saying the match should have gone longer, but it wasn't like it was a significant match. They never advertised an opponent. That would have been disappointing. He then issued an open challenge to anyone from the area to come out and face him right away for the AEW World Championship. And some overweight Canadian wrestler from the area came out before Ethan Page. His music did not hit, but he came out instead and surpassed the guy and told him to hit the bricks, head to the back, so he can accept the open challenge instead. But it wasn't like opportunistic Ethan Page, like jumping in there, having an immediate match with MJF. That would have been random just because he is Canadian, like, okay, who cares? Prior to this point, Ethan Page has been a non-factor in AEW. He's been all over the show for the last 2 years, but he's been in a tag team with Scorpio Sky. He's been a background player for Scorpio Sky and Men of the Year and Dan Lambert, that whole thing. And then he was doing the, Matt Hardy stuff for a long time. That was kind of like an undercard story. The firm sucked. He lost the firm. He's with Matt and Jeff now. It was like they're not henchmen, but like he's working with them now because he had Matt work for him for so long. So now they reverse the roles as of Double or Nothing. That's kind of like what they're doing with these guys, or rather with Ethan Page right now. And that's fine, but there's really no reason to see him as a legitimate threat to an AEW World Championship, which is why I liked the match the promo that preceded the match. He got on the mic, all fired up, and Page, while he's not my favorite performer on the roster, I think the guy's very good just based on how they've used him. It really hasn't been overly exciting in the last 2 years. Although, like I said, at least he's actually been on the show compared to most people on the AEW roster. Very few people on the show can do a fired-up promo better than Ethan Page. Not no one, I don't want to say no one, but few people can do it better than him. And that's what we got here. We got fired-up, motivated Ethan Page, going after MJF on the mic, talking about why he deserved this opportunity. He hasn't gotten opportunities. He feels overlooked. His wife was asking, when are you going to go in there and get the extra pay and due and whatnot for all the extra shit you do for this company, because he was like promoting this tour of Canada for AEW without even being on the show, and he said, fuck that, I'm going to go out there and get my opportunity, and that's exactly what he did. MJF accepting the matchup, championship on the line, a good solid match. Page was the underdog here. He was in full-on babyface mode. The crowd rallied behind him. MJF worked over him for a majority of the match, won clean. Page looking good in defeat. Not a barn burner by any means. Not even a breakout performance. I honestly was more impressed by the preceding promo from before the match from Page than I was by the match itself, which was good and well worked, but definitely a very forgettable MJF championship defense. You would think this would feel more special than it did, considering MJF rarely wrestles on television, and he never really puts his championship on the line. This felt like a house show match, but the promo is what I really liked, and kind of a small taste, I guess, of what you can expect from Page if he was ever to be pushed significantly on his own. The Matt and Jeff stuff is fine. I feel like that overstayed its welcome a long time ago. But if they ever do bother to push this guy on his own in a meaningful fashion, maybe even as a babyface, this is what you can expect from him in that role, because I really like the promo. We had our first men's Owen Hart Cup quarterfinal match on the show. We had 3 of them. This was the first. Powerhouse Hobbs and Dustin Rhodes. Good, well-worked, solid match here from these two. I mean, at this stage of Dustin's career, and he can still go in the ring, he probably should be squashed by a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs who needs all the heat he can get, because he just means absolutely fucking nothing right now. But I didn't mind the fact it was competitive. It was a tournament match. I get it. They got an ample amount of time. Hobbs went over. Dustin's still looking good in the ring, though, at this stage of his career. And the fact he's been on the show consistently for the last number of months now, not always wrestling, but like the Keith Lee Alliance partnership, has kept him on Rampage specifically. And again, who gives a fuck about Rampage, but it's better than nothing. Has kept him on the show more than he was probably last year. After Cody left, Dustin Rhodes, from what I can recall, was barely on AEW television. And to me, that's a waste. When you're as good as Dustin Rhodes is, even at this stage of his career, he should be in there, not every week, not baiting the world champion, but still wrestling fairly regularly while we have him on the roster before he retires, whenever that is. It might be this year, it could be next year, I don't know. I think he said originally this would be his final year in the ring, but it could turn into another 2 years if he wanted to. But I thought this was good, though. Miro was in the ring after that for I was going to say a quick squash, but it wasn't exactly a squash. He faced Anthony Henry of the Workhorsemen. And if you only watch Dynamite or Collision, you probably have no fucking clue who this guy is. He's barely even on Rampage. But the Workhorsemen are largely a dark tag team, elevation tag team, Ring of Honor tag team, him and JD Drake. They work very well together. They're a great team. Anthony Henry was in, I forgot his name, but he was in 205 Live 2 years ago for a cup of coffee on that, the Cruiserweight division on the Cruiserweight show. He's a great worker, no real reason for viewers to take him seriously. He scored a lot more offense here than I probably would have liked. If Miro's supposed to be in monster domination mode right now, he probably should have won this a lot quicker than he did. Thankfully, it was a 3-minute match. It wasn't like a 7-minute competitive match. Again, they're not pushing Henry. They're not going to push Henry on these shows, so he shouldn't really be in there going toe-to-toe with Miro. But still, fine match. Miro wins. No indication of what's next for him. He wasn't in the Owen Hart Cup, and if he wasn't going to win it, why put him in there? I mean, Hobbs kind of occupies the monster heel role. You also have Samoa Joe in there, so there's no real reason to have Miro in there as well. Although now that I think about it, a Miro-Joe match at some point would be fucking awesome. That would fucking slap, so hopefully at some point we can get that. I don't think we ever got that in WWE. But anyway, Miro wins. That's about it. Nothing else to report there. House of Black actually interrupted an Andrade promo backstage later on in the show when he was talking about how, oh, you stole my mask, you disrespected me, and they interrupted him by appearing on the screen behind him, and that was it. Kind of a lame promo. They're still building to Andrade and 2 other partners against House of Black. I mean, it will likely be Dralistico and Roosh. Again, Roosh I thought became a father not too long ago, and I thought he said that he'd be back like a while from now. So I've seen other people say it's going to be another team or another 2 people. I mean, Dralistico is still active on the fucking roster, so I'm not sure why it wouldn't be him. I mean, realistically, it would make sense to have it be Dralistico and the other member of Los Ingobernables not de Japón, but La Facion de Ingobernables, that being Preston Vance. He's also not doing shit right now, so that would just make sense. He and Andrade actually were feuding at the time Andrade disappeared from the show. And they just never followed through on that. Preston joined them instead, and that was it. And that was after Andrade took time off. But anyway, so you could do that. But we also had another backstage segment earlier in the show with Christian Cage and Luchasaurus being interviewed, being interrupted by Shawn fucking Spears, who we saw in action on Friday's Rampage. I know they're in Canada right now for a string of shows. He's Canadian. Cool. The guy's a good worker, but based on how he's been booked in WWE and now even AEW for the last 4 years, I mean, he was only on WWE's main roster for less than 2 years. He's been in AEW's main roster for fucking 4 years. And beyond that Cody Rhodes match 4 years ago at All In or All Out, whatever the hell it was, we have been given zero reason to give a shit about this guy. And that includes his time in the Pinnacle, where he was just a stepping stone and the fall guy for the group. That's really about it. He went undefeated for like a year. Like, who gives a shit? And he seems like a good guy. He seems like a nice guy. But they dust him off every once in a while to have him just put over someone. How much does that even mean at this point? Luchasaurus and Shawn Spears? Like, what year is this? Like, who cares? If you want to have him go in there and squash Spears, I get it. But it's like, there's other people that I would rather see. At this point, he's a lost cause. He's damaged goods. Bring in other people, 10 count or not. I don't give a shit about Shawn Spears at this point. Bring in other people you're barely doing anything with and give us reasons to care about them. Shawn Spears, to me, is not that guy. We had another in-ring promo segment, Bullet Club Gold getting interviewed by Tony Schiavone in the ring. And they addressed a couple different things. They hyped up Ricky Starks and Juice Robinson for the show, which happened right after the segment, actually. Jay White and Juice actually put FTR on notice, saying they want their AEW World Tag Team titles. And we have this blind eliminator tournament going on right now, I think for a shot at the World Tag Team titles. But instead, FTR, instead of waiting for that to play out when we have no fucking clue what's going on there, it just kind of feels like the Adam Cole MJF show at this point with that stuff. That it really just feels like designed to have them either win the whole thing or just to make them a team to further their feud. Who knows? So they're going to be challenging FTR next week, actually, on Collision. If they win that match in an eliminator, as they call it, they will then earn a feature shot at the AEW World Tag Team titles. I love FTR. It is ridiculous. They've been champions now for 3 months and have had one championship defense, a double or nothing in a match I just didn't give a shit about. I mean, these guys were defending champions when they held the belts the first time a few years ago. It's not their fault. It's how they're booked, obviously. I mean, they're getting the Roman Reigns treatment right now. They're on the show every week. They do wrestle a fair amount of matches, but like they're not defending the championship because there's no fucking division to defend it against. AEW doesn't really have a lot of top tag teams at this point, but that is a match I'm looking forward to next week. So they talked about that. They talked about the other stuff. They also did make it official. The Guns are official members of Bullet Club Gold. Yay, I guess. But they also specifically addressed and mentioned multiple times CM Punk. And White specifically referenced the bag that Punk brought to the ring with him on Collision 2 weeks ago that held the championship that he claimed he never lost when he left last fall. I don't think it's going to be for the fake AEW World Championship, but it would be cool if we got Punk and White out of this. I could see a scenario where White cost Punk his match next week on Collision because he's overlooking White. He's only got his sights set on the Owen Hart Cup. I mean, realistically, Joe winning clean would be better to give Joe a big dominant win, and Joe has always beaten Punk. Punk's never beaten him. I mean, I would rather have a full-fledged Punk and Joe feud right now over Punk and White. And neither are bad options. I just feel like Joe and Punk is what they should be doing in the interim while White faces Punk down the road. And Juice Robin, or rather, Jay White can focus on the tag titles for right now. That's what I would do. But anyway, I thought this was a solid segment. That led immediately into the other men's Owen Hart Cup quarterfinal match on the show. Ricky Starks and Juice Robinson. Quality contest, well wrestled. Not much more to it beyond that. Starks has lost to Bullet Club Gold a lot in the last couple of months. He lost to Jay White by DQ on Dynamite right before Double or Nothing. He lost to Jay White on Dynamite a few weeks after that. He lost the tag team match. Took the losing fall for his team, I'm pretty sure, in that 8-man tag last week. He's lost a lot. And this is a guy that was white hot coming into the year back at the onset of 2023. So he needed some momentum. He got it here. He finally got one over on one of the members of the group, that being Juice Robinson, by beating him here. Quality contest. The crowd did not care for a lot of what they did. They didn't really give a shit about most of the show, to be honest with you. But they were specifically quiet for this match, despite how well wrestled it was. Starks wins. Bullet Club Gold attempts to attack afterward. Punk and FTR make the save. Punk getting a not-so-warm welcome in Canada again. And that was kind of the case when he came out for his entrance in the main event. Not wrestling, but doing commentary for the Joe and Roderick Strong main event. We had an AEW TBS Championship match. Kris Statlander taking on Lady Frost. I assume this was another fucking open challenge. I mean, AEW has so many of them, as does WWE. But AEW specifically, they just announce matches at random with no real rhyme or reason. Like Comandar versus Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor World Championship on Rampage. Fun match, but why? Comandar has not won a single meaningful match in AEW on television. How can I take him seriously as the threat to Claudio, who's involved in one of the biggest storylines right now on the show? That makes no sense. Lady Frost, I actually really like. She is quite good. I don't know if she signed to a contract. The fact that she got a televised entrance is a good sign. That is an encouraging sign. If I had to guess, she's probably assigned to the Ring of Honor roster. So don't get your hopes up. I don't imagine we see her much on Collision or Dynamite or even Rampage going forward. She's probably primarily going to be a Ring of Honor person. But this was a quality contest. They got a decent amount of time, around 7-8 minutes. Kris Statlander wins. Good stuff. It would have been nice if one of them got mic time to really hype this up. I mean, this was just kind of a match and that was it. No real reason to take Lady Frost seriously, but she wasn't in there just to get squashed. So again, I appreciated that. The main event, Samoa Joe, the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, taking on Roderick Strong in a men's Owen Hart Cup quarterfinal matchup. And also what we were told by, I think, Kevin Kelly earlier in the episode, the first one-on-one match these two have had in 17 years. That would have been, what's 17 years from now? It's 2023. So 2006, that would check out. That was when Joe was still in Ring of Honor before he reported to TNA full-time. That's pretty crazy. And honestly, they had a really good match. This was what I was looking forward to most coming into the episode. It delivered. Not a Mac Classic by any means, but it was well-wrestled, hard-hitting, enjoyable. I like this. Joe winning by referee stoppage. I like that as well. Roderick Strong did not tap out. Strong's, I believe, his first loss since coming to AEW. Punk was sitting on commentary for the entire match. I think I mentioned this last week. The Punk dynamic, he's got the Diesel dynamic right now with the fans, where once people start chanting his name, other people in the crowd start booing him. At some point, he probably will have to go full-fledged heel, and that will be great, don't get me wrong. But I like him doing the Diesel dynamic from like the mid-90s right now. I think it's amazing. Where if you're a fan of him, he'll slap your hand, he'll sign something for you, whatever. If you're booing him, he doesn't even pay any attention to you, or he just doesn't give a fuck about you, or he doesn't like you. I think that's really cool. It's refreshing because typically if you're a babyface, you have to accept everyone whether they like you or not. And if you're a heel, you just shit on everyone even if they like you. Even if you have some fans in the audience. So I like the polarizing the receptions right now. It works for what he's going for. It's more realistic, honestly. I don't know if it works long term. Cody Rhodes' dynamic was different. Cody Rhodes was not out there saying, hey, fuck you to my detractors. I'm a babyface. Punk never said he was a babyface. He's out there, with his fans celebrating, and then the detractors he doesn't give a shit about. Or he just doesn't like or whatever. The Cody Rhodes thing was different. Cody Rhodes was out there saying like, oh, I'm a babyface through and through. It's like, this is stupid. And he was out there even saying, I'm not going to turn heel. Like, what the fuck is this? But anyway, after the match, Joe and Punk kind of have a face-off at ringside. And then Joe walks back to the stage, grabs a chair that he seemingly was going to use on Punk before going into the ring and not hitting Strong with it, but putting it on the ground and laying out Strong on the chair. I guess it was such a vicious attack, it warranted Joe, or rather Strong, being stretchered out of the ring. So that was a bit extreme. But it put heat on the match next week. Joe looks great. He looks like a monster heel. Punk stood in the ring. Adam Cole came out, actually. Not like with music and all, but he came out concerned for his friend Roderick, as he should have. And both he and Punk not really acknowledging each other, but standing there watching, dejected, as Roderick was stretchered out of the ring. So good stuff here. The final match was the best part of the show. Not really an episode you need to go out of your way to watch. I hope we can get more eventful, exciting episodes going forward. I will say this, though. I enjoyed Collision more this week than I did Dynamite. Dynamite had a bit more going on, and even a better match with Moxley and Tomohiro Ishii in the opener. That was better than anything on this show, but I still enjoyed the pacing of this show more. It's slower paced. It's not throwing a million things at you at once. I don't know, it's just more consistent. I guess Dynamite has some fucking weird stuff and then some great stuff. This is more consistent. It's a simple format. Backstage interviews given more time. Matches given more time. It was very heavy on the in-ring action this episode, with the focus being on the Owen Hart Cup for the men. TBS Championship match, furthering some feuds. And it's also the same faces we've gotten on the show in the last couple of weeks. Maybe at some point that'll get old. I don't know. But for right now, they're giving these people consistent television time. Jay White has gotten more TV time on Collision in the last 3 weeks than he has on Dynamite in the last month and a half, I would think. Samoa Joe, same thing. Christian Cage and Luchasaurus are on the show, so I don't know. I've been digging what I've been seeing from Collision. I like the show. This was the weakest of the three so far. Again, I don't know if I'm going to continue these reviews going forward. It depends on the week, I guess. But I did like the show, and I continue to enjoy Collision more than I do Dynamite. And Dynamite's not a bad show. I just feel like Collision is more up my alley as far as the pacing, the formatting, and even the people being featured. But that's just my 2 cents. Good stuff here from Collision. Like I said, we should be back next week with another review. Depends on what I got going on next Sunday, so stay tuned for that potentially. A lot of content up here on the channel from the last couple of days, including a SmackDown audio review, which I don't typically do on pay-per-view weekends, but I did this week because it was a special show in London, despite not being a good show. We had a SmackDown in London. I reviewed that yesterday. A quick short from the now former Mr. Money in the Bank Austin Theory from last year, asking him what he held in his Money in the Bank briefcase last summer. So we got that up yesterday. My latest review of Dark Side of the Ring from earlier today went up. That episode on the Junkyard Dog aired earlier in the week. And on Friday, I think was my interview with Zoe Stark, went live here on the channel in video form. So again, a lot to check out here on the channel. More to come. My GM mode and WWE 2K23 going up tomorrow. Universe mode, checked it out. Did a quick video on it. That's going to be going up at some point this week as well, so keep an eye out for that. Not the most exciting content, but something to stay subscribed for nonetheless. Have an awesome, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.